Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today for Aero Workflow. We are talking about a subject near and dear to our hearts. I'm talking about the sales process, and for some of us in the client accounting services world, this is not a comfort zone. So with that, I will introduce our subject for today. It's called Developing a Web Store for Fixed Fee Services. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Laura Redmond. I run an accounting firm with remote staff in different locations. We primarily offer controller services, acting as our client's accounting department. All of our clients are on QuickBooks Online, so we're totally web-based. We have multiple clients, multiple staff, and multiple different services that we perform at various frequencies. So our goal as a firm is to deliver quality to our clients and profitability to the firm. We offer several core services, and we have created standards for how we deliver them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. I am a QuickBooks Pro Advisor in my accounting firm, Redmond Accounting. We are primarily focused on QuickBooks Online. All of our clients, again, are on QuickBooks Online. For Intuit, I write the QuickBooks Online core and the advanced certification courses, and I teach them on some of the road shows and at some of the conferences. If you go to any of the industry conferences, like QuickBooks Connect is coming up in San Jose in a few weeks in October. I'll be teaching the advanced QuickBooks Online certification course there. I spend a lot of time with cloud-based accounting solutions. And then I am also one of the co-creators of Aero Workflow app, and that is who is bringing you this webinar today. This is where all of my experience and knowledge providing accounting services, and especially cloud-based accounting services, all comes together. So, or as I said, in my accounting firm, we have various clients and tasks and due dates to juggle, and we needed a system to be able to organize and handle all of that workload and be able to delegate to different people. So that's how Aero was born. It was developed by accountants for accountants. So that's a little bit about me and my background. So today I'm going to segue into the sales process by starting with that service delivery process. So for me, the first step in my firm, so our firm has been around 11 years now, and when we started, our biggest pain point was just trying to organize the service delivery portion of the work that we were to do for our clients. In those early years, we were using whatever tool, and by tool I primarily mean software application, software solution, whatever tool sometimes the client had selected, or just any tool that we could just find at the time that would help us perform the service we were trying to perform. So those were the early years, and we just used a whole bunch of tools. I don't want to say that we were scattered about it. We were very thoughtful about it, but certainly not as standardized as we are today. So then we began to gain expertise in specific tools, and we began to define our processes. So whereas in the early days, the clients that came to us may have been on all different types of general ledger accounting software solutions and had all different processes for how they archive their supporting documentation, how they paid bills, all that sort of thing, all the different banks that they used. And so as we began to gain this expertise, that allowed us to define our processes better. And as we grew, team collaboration became critical to our success. So we built Aero Workflow to manage that service delivery. And so Aero allows us to organize who the work is delegated to, for what client, at what frequency, what that work is, so that it is performed consistently and efficiently every time we do the work, because we really want to deliver high quality work, right? So Aero is that tool that we built that allows us to systemize our service delivery and still watch, manage, and most importantly, profit from the work that we do. And Aero is the tool that allows us to take our knowledge capital and use it. And by knowledge capital, I'm referring to everything you know about the work you do that you've gained through whether it be certification, education, experience, tips from industry, communities where you learn the best practices that others are using. Pool that all together into your firm and then use that to create a profitable business. And so to this day, Aero is still very much the core of our firm. So what we wanted to do after we felt very comfortable about having gotten the service delivery piece of our firm down pat, the next real pain point for us was the selling process. But before I go there, I want to point out that with Aero, in addition to the ability to spell out how the work should be performed, we also have this Aero Library, which is a pooled knowledge base of step-by-step instructions for how to do work in some of the most popular apps being used in the cloud accounting workspace. So that if you're a firm, you sometimes don't have time to write all of this up because you really just need to get work done. So you can pull those from the library. If there's work you're doing and we've got it written up in the library, just pull it from there. Or maybe there's work that you could do, but you just don't have experience with a particular app. Pull that instruction set from the library, and here you are able to offer a new service or perform a service more profitably for a client. So the Aero Library is a big value component to Aero Workflow app, and it is also part of why we got into building this web store, because we wanted to use it with our clients. So the next thing we started thinking about, again, this is back in our early days, and by the way, let me just add here a couple of comments. First of all, I'm assuming that you are either familiar with Aero Workflow, and so this webinar today is not showing you how to use that. If you're not familiar with it, please, by all means, help yourself to all the videos on our website, and you can see a lot more about what I mean when I talk about harnessing your knowledge capital and how Aero does that. And the second thing that I really should say here as we get into this next part is that I am coming to you sharing a great big public experiment, really. This is something we're trying in our firm, and we're sharing it right away. We do not have years of success or failure at it. I'm just showing you what we're trying and inviting all sorts of feedback as an industry, because I really feel like it's not about my firm or not. It's about how are we as an industry going to take what we're hearing and learning so much about fixed fees and value pricing and things like that, and how do we roll that out. So this is not by any means the only way to do it. This is one way, and I am happy to share what it looks like, what the idea is, and how it goes. We'll definitely do follow-ups on it. So for the first, I'd say the first half of our firm's existence, pretty much, we were billing hourly. Any work we did, we would just keep track of our time and bill based on an hourly rate. And then, as you all have probably heard, our industry has begun buzzing in the past 5 or 6 or maybe even longer years about value pricing, fixed fee pricing. There's a little bit of a difference there in it, in that value pricing is more about pricing the customer differently from one customer to the other, is my understanding of it. Whereas fixed fee pricing, which is what I'm talking about here, is just, instead of billing by the hour, coming up with a price for the service, and then your firm performing the service the way you agreed to, and the client paying the fixed price for it. So we were really fired up about this idea. Our motto is circle/receivables. So for us, in 2011, we switched all of our clients that we had most of them for many years, and so we already had a good idea for what resource it was going to take to do the work and how much we needed to charge them to cover our cost of labor, our cost of subscription fees, that we were incurring on their behalf, plus profit. So I'm not saying that even that was easy. I made a lot of spreadsheets in those early days, but we were able to come up with a fixed fee price for each of those clients, and we moved everybody in 2011 to fixed fee. And that allowed us to have already agreed upon a number with the client. The client was happy because they weren't nervous that their bill was going to 1 month maybe escalate to some large number and they wouldn't know how to do anything about it. It's sort of too late at that point. So they were happy they could budget for our services, and for us, we charge automatically on the first day of the month that's coming up that we would be performing the service in. So a little bit like rent, right? Due on the first of the month before the service takes place. So that really, really helped our cash flow, of course, and our planning. Over those next few years, again, the circle/receivables, being able to live that out was one of the greatest benefits. We did not have, when the month ends and then it takes you another week or so to even find time to do the invoicing, because that process can be very lengthy itself. So you really have to find time to invoice, and already it's farther and farther away from when the service occurred, so you really need to invoice as soon as you possibly can. So you finally find some time a week or so after the month ends, or longer in some cases. I don't know, no judgment here. You send the invoice out, and then it might be 30 days, 45 days, who knows, to when the cash comes in. So we dramatically changed that cash flow, and that was wonderful. So again, and for us, we used Bill.com receivables, and we set up recurring invoices for the fixed fee amount that is set to go out and auto pay from the client's bank account on the first day of the month. But there are certainly lots of other tools. I'm just sharing what we used at the time, and we're still using it because it's still a great service and has not failed. This next part is the hardest part about all of it, is determining the fee. There's so much pressure to that because you're worried about not just being profitable, but more worried that you will pick a number that's too low and sort of put yourself in a position where you're losing money, right? Which can really damage the firm. So you really need to be careful about making an error here, or at least that's all the anxiety that goes around it. And of course, on the other side, if you shoot too high and offer too much or too high of an amount to the client, you may lose them. So this sales process and determining the fee is what I'm talking about specifically, is really, really crucial. And so what we did in the first days was, after we had switched everyone in 2011 to fixed fee, the next prospects to come in, we would sort of compare them to those existing clients we'd had for years and think, well, this one's kind of like that client A, change a couple of things and the price is going to be kind of like that. Okay, great. And we'd sort of come up with pricing like that. We never felt really confident about the number we were coming up with. We certainly never felt like we were doing a disservice to the clients, because for them, whatever amount is fair for them that they can afford and they get the service done, if they agree to it, your price can really be just what someone will pay for it. So if they agree to pay for it, and we were always shooting right at around a number that was not too high. In those early days, we were just trying not to get it too low and lose too much profit on it. So, but we went about trying to make the process easier. And we would take a Microsoft Word document, and we built it in these beautiful pages so that it sort of started to tell the story, right? Because part of that sales process is telling the story of what your firm does. There's this whole piece of sales that is about setting the expectation properly so that when you get to the service delivery, you don't have this disconnect where everybody starts to say, oh no, that's not what I thought it was going to be. Setting up for disaster. And coming out of the service side of things, I know that we wanted to set ourselves up for success through the sales process before the service delivery. So we would create these proposals that sort of tried to give the value, show them how much better these cloud solutions were, or how much better the timing was if you use electronic payments, or how much better it was to access your supporting documentation when you had it cloud-based. All that sort of passing on the value of the way we worked, and also clarifying exactly what work we were doing and what work we were not going to do. And we started to build what things were going to look like. But still, coming up with the number, how much were we going to charge? That was difficult. So in the first days of value pricing, or fixed fee pricing, I should say, we really were just working on delivering the story and the expectations, and still just sort of shooting in the air for a number. The number is still the hard part. The next thing we did was we built a couple of online web tools. And there are a lot of ways to do that. I know that there are different solutions out in the marketplace. For us, I'm just sharing the way we've done things. We use Method CRM. Method is a CRM, but it is also a tool that allows you to customize and build screens that feed off of a database behind it. So we had already known and worked with Method for years. We built Aero first on the Method platform before Aero was rebuilt on its own web platform as you know it today. So we had this tool we were familiar with, and that's what we used, and we just love building on this tool. So we used Method, and we built a couple of tools to help automate. One of them was the gathering of information from the clients. And so when someone comes to you and they say, hey, can you do our accounting? And you have this long conversation, either in person you need to go meet with them, or have a telephone or conversation, or several telephone conversations. And what you have to, I mean, you can't just pick a number out of the air until you've gathered information from them. So we pooled together all the types of information we thought we would need, and everything from their company name, type of entity, what size were they as far in terms of like how much revenue per year, how many employees were there, trying to get an idea of what size accounting department we needed to build for them on the back end. And we also were collecting things like, what are your pain points now? What do you want to get out of having an outsourced client accounting services firm do your work? And we really wanted to capture what their early pain points were so that we could come back to them a year later after doing their work and show them the value that we've provided to them by saying, look at the way you stated things used to be, and here's how they are now. So, and then we also would collect exactly what type of services. It was just a good, nice, thorough needs assessment form. So, and we created that immediately onto a web-based form, which is an easy way to send someone a link to it, and they can just answer the questions in their own time whenever they can get to it, and then submit it to you, and then you have it saved and you can access it as you need it. So that's the first tool we built, was a needs assessment. And the second tool we built was a quote maker. Quote maker is just the name we're calling it. These were just used internally in our firm, so they don't really have any other fancier branded names. But what the quote maker let you do was take the information off of the needs assessment form, and the needs assessment form gave you that snapshot of information about the client, and then we could pull in the services that they were asking for, pick the right level of service. If they wanted us to pay their bills, did they need that once a month? Did they need that once a week? Did they need that every day? That kind of thing. So the needs assessment helped us get the story of what the company was like, so that we could then determine what level of service to pull in and what types of service. And the first quote maker would put out that same proposal. Remember I told you that in the early days we would make this Microsoft Word document proposal, and it was pretty. It had graphics, and part of selling is to show the value through images and statements about what you're providing. So all of that we brought into this quote maker. But instead of having to open Microsoft Word and save as and call it a new document for the new prospect. This quote maker that we built in Method, you would just start a new quote, and at the end you could hit print, and out would pop that beautiful, like I think it was like 10-page proposal with all the sales components of it, and really sort of then mapping out the pricing that we had put at the end. And then we updated the quote maker a year or two later so that we could show, instead of one sheet of pricing with our fixed fee bid, it then showed 3 proposed packages so that they now could choose between them. And in all 3, we really tried to give them options so that the low-end pricing one was not everything they wanted, because it would be the option if they wanted to save some money and maybe they could do some of the work. The middle one was most of what they wanted. The top one was everything they wanted, and, you know, just really everything we could think of that would fit their business. So that has worked really well for us, but still, the first piece of it is still reading the needs assessment and pulling onto the quote the types of services and frequencies and that kind of thing. So there is still an element of discomfort there. But at least you're giving 3 options and you let the client select the best fit. And the client sometimes would come back and say, you know, I kind of like this middle one, but there's one line from the top one that I want. And you can force them to get all of the top package, the highest package, or you could kind of come back and kind of give a different mix. So anyway, there were enough reasons for us that we kept working on this sales process. And here's what I'm talking about on screen. Is it seems like every time we try to issue a proposal, whether it be one fixed fee price proposal or whether it have 3 options, everybody still wanted a little bit different. It just kept feeling like everybody kind of wanted to do it themselves. And how do they create their own proposal? You can't let your client create, your prospect create their own proposal. That would be ludicrous. And it was very time consuming. Every time we got a prospect, I mean, all of us have to sort of, not all of us, but there are a few of us that would prepare, a few of us on the team that could prepare a proposal. And so one of us or a couple of us would have to find time and stop and work on it. And so anyway, we just kept going on our journey. So this is where we are. This is sort of feeling really good about the needs assessment process, feeling really good about the quote maker, but there were just still this last feeling of that clients kind of wanted to do it themselves. And there was also this other piece that was kind of sticking in my brain about really wanting to harness the power of the Aero Library. So if you will, the Aero Library contains checklists of how to do certain processes at a very standardized level. Now, when you use Aero Library, you can pull, say it's the checklist on how to enter bills. You can pull that into your Aero account and assign it to one of your staff and set it to show up on her list to do weekly, and she can go about doing it exactly as it's written in the Aero Library, or you can customize it and say, well, we want to do most all of these steps, but this client is a little special. I'm going to add another couple of steps in here for this client. And a lot of times you end up customizing it a little bit because every client is special. But we wanted to give this opportunity to, there are enough prospects we find that are really price conscious, and we totally understand it. We're looking at their books. They need to be price conscious about the services that they are getting from us and anyone else that they're, any of their other vendors. So we wanted to give this option of what if we didn't customize everything, because that's where it really starts to take a lot of time and cost more money. So what if we could just offer these standard services such that they are found in Aero Library. Now our clients don't see Aero Library and they don't care about how we do our work so much, but in my mind I'm thinking, how do we use the Aero Library standardized tasks, and with staff who know how to do that work, don't make it cost more money to the client by customizing and doing all this fancy stuff. Just do the Aero Library and get the bulk of the work done. And by bulk of the work done, I mean get all the work done, but don't do it in such a custom way. If the client really wants to be price conscious about it, then these standard workflows are going to do the standard accounting. And so maybe when they have more money for this type of service, they can get into customizing it for a more unique sort of workflow. So that brought us to building the web store. So let's just run through some of these difficulties here on screen and just sort of have them all in your mind. This is what was in my mind building this web store. We started building this right about October last fall. And I don't mean that it took that long to build, but I didn't have time to build this every day. This would just happen in meetings, weekly meetings, and things like that. So over the course of the past few months, it was sort of moving from the phase of these pain points you see on screen through to, wireframing, designing it, and then building it. So first of all, and again, all of these things you see here are recurring themes. This has all been part of the sales process since the first days. You need to convey the value of cloud accounting because it's different. And for a lot of the companies that are coming into this new frontier, this cloud-based way of working, it's going to be different for them. Where do they go see a copy of a bill if they need to pull it? Where do they find their supporting documentation if their tax accountant asks for it? So how do they review their financial reports, that kind of thing. So you want to not only message the cloud accounting, if you're doing cloud accounting, for us we're doing cloud accounting, you not only want to message that that's how you work, but also the value of that. And then you also need to convey exactly what services you offer, because clients may just assume that you're also going to do their tax return, and you may be a client accounting services firm that does not offer taxes. Or they may assume you're going to do payroll too, and you may not do payroll. So you want to have this ability to show exactly what you do. Even on our needs assessment, where they could check or not check the boxes for the services we offer, they would still write in somewhere else for us to go do something else, and we didn't offer that. So all of this was in my mind, how to continue telling or offering to prospects what services we offer and what we don't. Definitely determining price, still one of the most difficult parts. And then negotiating over the price that you offer, that's not my favorite thing to do, I'll tell you. And then setting clear expectations of the work process. And here I mean, how do you work? How do you do the work? Because even how many times have you thought that you had very clearly explained how you work and clients still think it's done a different way? So the more clear you can be about that, the better we're finding. And then also defining who does what. If it's payroll, is your client going in and doing the paychecks and running the payroll, and you're only remitting the payroll tax and filing the quarterly forms? Or is your firm doing all the payroll, including the paychecks? So you want to define who does what. If it's paying bills, who's the check signer? If in our situation, we're using Bill.com to pay bills. And in our firm, if we're doing bill pay for them under the standard accounting services, then we enter the bills, and the client has to approve them, which is the equivalent of a check signature for us, and then we will go in and pay the bill. So however you do it in your firm, you just want to clarify not only your work process, but who does what. And of course, avoiding scope creep, because again, that goes with setting the expectations of what work is going to be done, because the client can expect maybe something different and more was going to happen. If you're paying bills, are you also collecting W-9s from the vendors? Are you also remitting the 1099 miscellaneous form? That sort of thing you want to spell out. There then started this mission for us to find solutions to those problems. And again, this is a work in progress. This is still an ongoing effort. But the goal was to create a sales system that would let clients sort of have more ability to control the process and the building of their proposal. So we wanted to give them access to exactly what services were available and be able to do it at their own time. So a web store is great because, well, I think it's great. For some people, it's great because you can go in at whatever time of the day or night for our prospects, whenever they had time to finally get to their accounting and their process of how they were going to find someone to do their accounting, and they could go online and play around the web store and build their own service plan. For others, they don't like to use the web, they don't like to log in, and it's not going to be really comfortable for them. And frankly, that may be a really good sign that we're not a good match for them. So I'm okay with that. This is going to be different from firm to firm, but for us, we were okay with having a web store. So, and of course, even having a web store does not mean that you can't go through the web store and help your client sitting next to you if you wanted to have them work with them in person. But for us, we're having clients, we're not on site with them, we're having prospects go to our web store and build their plan themselves. And it really lets them feel it out. So I'm going to take you through some of what that looks like here. So again, with that idea that the client or the prospect really is being in control, here if you were to go to our website and click the services page, there is this option here, and it tells you that you can either select from our standard accounting packages, or you can design a custom concierge solution, or you can buy some of our consulting. So I'll just tell you, and again, this is just for our firm. I know that firms operate differently, but for us, the standard services here, if you click the blue button standard, that's going to take you into this web store that I'm talking about today. The other two options, concierge is our other system of where you fill out a needs assessment, and then we use the quote maker and we develop a really custom plan for you. And that's going to be more expensive than the standards web store options. And then consulting on the end is when someone is not looking for us to be their accounting department. They're doing their own accounting, but they need help. They're stuck. They need a QuickBooks Online coach call with us, or they want us to do a special project. Those are one-offs. They go through there and put in their credit card and buy one of those consult sessions or something. So here I'm talking about standard, this blue button here. Standard. So if you were to click that, it will take you into our web store. And this is what I've been leading up to in this webinar today. Again, is how to harness the power of the Aero Library instructions, checklists for how to do all that work so that your staff can use the standard processes using the industry favorite apps. And then, of course, listen, I'm saying Aero Library, but you can set up in Aero, you can set up checklists for your own apps. If you use an app and you find that it is not an Aero Library, you can set up your own step-by-step instructions for how you want your staff to do each one of their duties, and then put that in a web store. And every time a prospect signs up for that service, you just grab it out of your own firm's templates and assign it to your staff. So I keep saying Aero Library, but I do want to clarify that this can be your own custom steps too. But all in all, it's the idea of standardizing so that you can offer a lower price point for a lot of businesses out there that don't need the overkill of these two custom unique solutions that they can't afford. So that's the purpose here. Okay, so once you click standard, you come into the next pages. We'll walk through some of these here. The first thing it does here is, and hopefully they're reading this, I can't make them read it, but we're really trying to message that this is the affordable way to go, because of course if they want to throw a lot of money at it, we will absolutely do a more unique solution for them. And then it also tells them that as they select pieces and build their plan, they're going to have to agree to how it works. How it works. So you can see I've got that in bold here, but and they'll have to agree to it. And I'll show you a screenshot of that in a minute. But what happens here at the bottom is we ask them for what entity type they are and what sort of grouping they're in terms of annual revenue, so that we can get a feel for what size company they are. And if you're familiar with some of the value pricing and fixed fee conversation out in our industry, in the accounting industry, especially client accounting services, you will know that this is referred to as factoring. So whatever they choose here is going to increase, if you will, the pricing that's about to show on the next pages. Maybe decrease, but I'm assuming here that if you're starting with the smallest entity type, which is a sole proprietor, and the smallest annual revenue, if you were to change that and choose a higher revenue or like a corporation as entity type, that pricing on the next pages will show on the screen higher than if you had chosen the sole proprietor. And then you click next and go on to this screen. So once you've told us the type of entity and what size company you are, then you're going to be presented, this is just our web store. Everyone is welcome to build it how they like, but we started off with a base plan because this, I have to tell you, the hardest part of all of this was, I mean, we have the service delivery step-by-step checklist built for years. We've been using them, but creating packages to sell, what goes in what package and then how much, I mean, at some points we're just putting numbers on it and we're going to see how it goes, and we can always change those numbers if they end up, if we find over the years that they've been too high or too low. But we've really done our best at putting numbers on it. So these are blurred out here because they, I mean, really they change based on what entity type and whatever that you choose. But you know, you got to pick something that's right for your firm. Anyway, we set up 3 plans that we find to be basic accounting, and what these 3 plans all do is make sure that all the transactions are recorded and all of the balance sheet accounts, mainly the bank and credit card accounts actually, are reconciled. So we created 3 standard plans. They select one of them. If they click select on one and they have not checked the box to accept how it works, then I'll show you coming up here what that looks like. A screen will stop them. But when you click how it works, another screen will pop up and show you some detail about how this plan works. Let's go to the next screen so you can see that. So let's say on the last screen that we had clicked the how it works under that plan on the far left, the growth plan. This other tab on a browser would pop up with the information about how the growth plan works. This is how we see it. For our firm, this is we do this, we do this, we do this, you do that, we do this, and then some special instructions here. So if they click that, they can read this, and then they can check the box to accept the terms. I'm going to go back one slide and show you again what that looks like. So once they read that tab, they can then close it if they want, and then they check this box to accept, and then they select this plan and move forward. Okay? That was really important to us to make sure that we set the expectation for the type of work that was being done, how it was being done, any special instructions, things like we need to be able to have access to your bank account so that we can manage the connection to QuickBooks Online. For us, we're using QuickBooks Online for everyone, so we need to set that up on the banking screen and troubleshoot it. So we require that all of our clients on those plans give us our own separate read-only login to their bank account. So I'll go back a screen and show you. So we put that here as that's required. You invite us as a read-only user to your online bank account. So if you have anything like that that you're requiring, then you want to put that somewhere in your sales process so that they know that, so that that expectation is set. Once you've picked a plan, now we move on to the add-ons. On the left side, this is going to sort of stay put for the next, not our next few screens, some of our next few screens, but for the prospect going through the web store. The left side will just add bullet points over here for each of the add-on services you add, and the total monthly amount up top here will keep adding or subtracting as you, the prospect, check or uncheck these boxes and add services on. So this screenshot is showing you an add-on for bill pay. So let's say you had picked one of those base plans. Here's the summary section over here. As you come and click max 50 bills a month, if you want us to do bill pay and you have 50 bills or fewer a month, you can check that. If you check the one under it, it will uncheck the one on top and it will check this instead. And it will type, whichever of the three is the one selected, it will type it here. So the summary keeps updating. You can uncheck the box so that none of them are checked, and then all of that disappears from the left, anything to do with bill pay. And also, so not only is it updating the summary on the left, it's also updating the totals here. And so and then if you try to click next, let's say you've selected one of these, bill pay, because you want our firm to pay your bills for you. And you click next, what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen. If you didn't check the accept box, it's going to give you that message we saw back here, which is, help us ensure that expectations match service delivery. Please press the How It Works button to read about this service. Then click the checkbox to accept these terms. So that you'll see is a common thread through each of these add-ons. Then they click next and they go through a series of add-ons. I think we only have 4 or 5 of the standard services. We do not have AR or creating invoices at all in our add-ons. That's just a personal choice we made right now because that one is so hard to standardize. But we could always set someone up with a standard service plan and then add on a custom additional amount for invoicing. So there's nothing wrong with doing that either. Okay, so once you get through the add-ons and you add on whichever other ones, we have payroll, company credit cards, expense reimbursements, things like that, you get to the final one, which is support. And this one is required. You have to pick, we're going to communicate with each other. So the client or the prospect needs to pick what level of communication they want. If they're going to send us emails all the time, they don't expect us to read them except once a week, then that's fine. And this is the lowest price one at the bottom here. If they want twice a week, then they'll pick the middle one. So, and again, they have to accept how it works. And once they do that, accept how it works and check which type, because this one's required, which type of support they want, then a button shows to allow them to move on and make the purchase. Once they do that, now they've built their plan, they're in control of their pricing. They can click and unclick things as they see fit. Once they get through that, then they come to the section about expectations. Now these are a little bit different expectations than the way I was using the word a minute ago when I was talking about their expectation for how we did the work and what it looks like from their side. By the way, let me just clarify that. How it works on the screens I was showing you earlier, I'm not showing them how I'm going to sit down and do the work. They don't care. They don't want to do accounting, obviously, if they're calling us. I'm telling them how it works from their viewpoint, how frequently bills are going to be paid, where they can look to see copies of the bill, things like that, what payroll looks like. It's only direct deposit, things like that, what it looks like from their side. They don't care what app I'm logging into. I'm not telling that kind of thing. That's part of my knowledge capital and how we do work in our firm. So once you go through the Webstore and you build the plan that you want for your business, then you get to this part and you have to go through this. There are more than this. There's a scroll bar normally, and I think we have like 14 now. We can add or subtract as we like, but these are basically like terms of services, right? So this is what they need to agree to as you would on an engagement letter, you know, that the responsibility for their company and the financial activity that they are triggering for their company is totally their responsibility. We don't take responsibility for the purchases they're making. If they authorize us to, if they approve a bill and authorize us to pay it, then they accept the fact that we paid the vendor as if they had written and mailed the check themselves, things like that. We specify the point of contact, that we want to interface with one person in their business and that we give them one point of contact on our side, because we've just spent years where a client would have like 30 staff all calling us at all different times, and we're re-explaining how the process works. And what we prefer is to have a point of contact on their side that knows how the relationship works with our firm and can train their new staff if the staff person even needs to know anything, or answer questions to their staff at their company. So if you have any of those types of terms or conditions for how you work, then you would want to set them here. And again, these are outside of how the services are performed. These are more general types of expectations or terms, if you will. So then once you get through accepting those, basically the engagement letter, then you come to this screen that's going to pop up, and it's going to show you a summary of what services you had selected and what the total charge is. And when you click purchase, then this other screen pops up here. I don't have a border on it, sorry, but this is a second screen on the kind of top right here to purchase, and you're going to enter your bank account information because we're going to draw funds on the 1st of every month. Oh, also in there, it's going to ask you, a pop-up window will ask you to confirm and authorize that we will charge a one-time fee in the same amount as the monthly fee to set all of these services up for you. So once you put in your bank account information, you click submit, and then you get an email confirmation. By you, I mean the prospect will get an email confirmation and thanking them for their web order, and it's going to contain 2 attachments. One of them is the auto pay agreement authorization form, which is just a 1 sheet that is confirming their routing number and account number and the dollar amount that's coming out on the 1st of month. And then the other form is the 10 to 15 page proposal. Still, this our main design. I mean, we update a little bit from back in the Microsoft Word document days a few years ago when we were first building them in Word, and then we built the quote maker, and now it comes out of this Webstore. And this is the summary of the services that they just signed up for. So whereas this auto pay agreement is a 1-sheet sort of backup documentation to if anyone questions why we're drawing funds monthly, this other sheet is the detailed service agreement. On it is the summary of the plan, all the pricing, and then if they picked payroll, there's a couple of sheets in here with all of the information that was in the Webstore about what the payroll is, how frequently, how many employees, how it works. Remember those pages, how it works that pops up? Those are all in here. If they didn't pick payroll, payroll sheets don't load into that form. And then remember at the very end, the expectations, like the engagement letter, all the terms of services, all of that is in here too that they agreed to. So this is really their documentation for once they leave the Webstore, they've got it all here confirmed for them. So then for us, the next step is we take this. So we've just launched this a few weeks ago and had a client signed up, went through the Webstore. I mean, they didn't know we had just launched the Webstore, but we had a prospect come maybe a week after. And so it's been well received. It's working out okay so far as we can tell for prospects. Maybe I haven't heard from the ones who couldn't figure out how to get through the Webstore, but it's pretty intuitive, and in fact, I'm pretty sure that they would call, as people do, for help getting through it. So anyway, once someone gets to the Webstore, what happens is we receive the same email they did on the screen before, and we come into Aero Library and pull each of those services that they signed up for, and all I have to do is create a master arrow, which is a recurring arrow, and I assign it to this new client name, I assign it to whichever my staff is going to do it, and I set the frequency on it. Boom, I'm done. I do the next one. Of course, I would love to see that part get automated. Maybe we can build that in the future, but for now we're just testing out the whole idea of a web store. What do you guys think about a web store? And then, of course, I jump into Bill.com and I set up the recurring ACH. We're going to do a one-time charge for the setup, and then we're going to set up the recurring monthly. And that's about it. I would love to see that piece be automated where when they go through the web store and purchase, my arrows are automatically scheduled for me, and Bill.com is automatically set to auto invoice and pull funds. But at this point, we're just testing out a web store for client accounting services. Right, everybody. As you know, it is Global Bookkeeping Week this week, so I do want to shout out to all the awesome, amazing bookkeepers out there. And we have a code here at Aero. If you're interested in giving Aero a try for your service delivery, please use the code GBW2016, GBW 2016, and you'll get 1 free month of Aero. All right, that brings us to the end of our hour. I want to thank you all very much for joining us today. And again, this web store we built, it's not anything I'm selling. I don't have any platform to sell it as of yet, but it definitely seems to go hand in hand with the service delivery that follows it. It's definitely been a pain point. I know it is for so many of my buddies out there in the accounting world. So we're really just sharing our journey through this.